So a potentially very controversial watch is going up for auction on July 26, 2022. And it's expected to fetch somewhere in the neighborhood appraised value of $1.6 million. So I know it's not anywhere near the 17 million that the Paul Newman Daytona was sold for, but that is a significant amount of money. And as you probably saw by the thumbnail, that watch is none other than Adolf Hitler's Reverso. Now I say Reverso in quotes because I don't know if it technically is a Reverso. Now follow me here. According to the write-up on the watch and the appraisal, and I'll put a link to all that stuff down in the description. The JLC will not confirm that. Let me back it up. JLC states that they did not sell Adolf Hitler this watch. Okay, they did not sell him this watch, but they did confirm that the case and the movement is in fact a JLC movement, hand wind movement, and the case is in fact a JLC Reverso case. What they are thinking happened was the Reverso came out in like 1931, and this watch was given to Hitler in 1933. So we're talking full 8 years before the war started, before World War II started. I'm a huge fan of history and student of history, and I think this watch is extremely relevant. And guys, you've got to try to remember, try to separate the items from the monsters. So what I mean by that is a certain knife or a flag or a machine gun or a watch or something, some type of item, bauble, whatever it is that has historical significance. An item doesn't have an ideology. It doesn't have a political view. It isn't a living, breathing entity. So it doesn't have any prejudices or anything like that. The people that owned it do, but the item itself did not. And that's why I think throughout history, there's significance to owning things from people who are genocidal maniacs and people who are for historical purposes, and whether that's where you put them in a museum to teach history or not, or people that are heroes. I think, I'm not saying that those folks absolutely should not be celebrated, but if you had, let's say, a pin from Joseph Stalin where he was, and it was confirmed that that was one of the pins he used to send millions of Russians to the Gulag, that would have historical significance. So this watch has historical significance. And now getting back to JLC, the reason I give quotes to the Reverso, calling it a Reverso, technically, yes, it has, as stated before, it has the Reverso case and a Reverso movement, but it looks like somebody in what was the early days in the Nazi Party, I don't think they called them Nazis, and it was something else like NDSPAC, something. But anyway, they bought, they think how they came into possession of it was somebody bought the Reverso to give to Hitler. And when they got it, they sent it to a very famous German brand at the time called Uber or Huber, or I don't know exactly how to say it, not German, but it's Huber. They took the watch, they took the movement and scrubbed it. They milled off the JLC and the numbers, and then they put Huber on there. They took the dial. They don't know if the dial was also JLC. It's a black enamel dial. Don't know if it's JLC dial, and they took the name off and put Huber on there, if it's a different dial. But anyway, they Hubered the watch up. They took it in-house, put their name on the movement, put their name and some symbols and engravings on the back of the watch, some dates that were significant to the time. They put their name on the dial, and apparently this was a common practice back then. They would buy movements from IWC, from JLC, from all these different watchmakers take him in, and apparently Huber was, according to the history that I read, Huber was a big, significant watchmaker in the 1930s, and all the top Nazis and all the top officers in the German army, that's where you got a Huber, apparently, or Uber. I'm sorry if I'm saying it incorrectly. Now, how the watch came to end up here in the States was when the Third Reich fell in 45, French troops were the first ones to reach the Berghof, which was Hitler's summer retreat up in Bavaria in Berchtesgaden. And it was pilfered. It was a war trophy. You used to take them back then, by a French soldier. A name, now again, I don't speak French. M-I-G-N-O, Minot, Sergeant Minot, I think is the way you say it. He took the watch along with some other stuff, and everybody took personal photos of Hitler's clothing, pictures, any type of personal items that they could take. They took, and he ended up with the watch, and it stayed in the family all this time until they decided it was time to auction it off. Now it has the letter of provenance of where he took it from, and a witness statement and a testament from his granddaughter, I think it was, stating that the watch had been in the family the whole time. You can clearly see all the engravings and the pictures that I put up here. They're pretty sure it's Hitler's watch. Now, did he wear it? They don't know. They don't have any pictures of him actually wearing it. If you guys want a full, in-depth, it's pretty interesting, in-depth history of this watch, where it was made, when it was given to him, with the dates of significance on the back of it, go check out the link for the auction. And also at the bottom of the history of it, there's another link on the authenticity report about, apparently a very famous JLC historian authenticated the watch and went through the whole thing and laid out the line of custody and the things, that similarities that Huber used to do, and how it came from a JLC to be a Huber and all that. So my question to you guys is, actually I have several questions I'd like to ask you guys. Do you think that it is appropriate to sell things like this from madmen like Stalin or Hitler or Pope or any of these dictators that murdered millions of people? Do you think that there is a historical relevance to these items and they need to be maintained for future generations to see? Or do you think that this kind of morbid and history be damned and just get rid of everything, erase every little thing about these people like they never existed? Like I said before, being a student of history, I love especially World War II history. When I was in the Army in the 90s, I was stationed in Germany, and I was fascinated by the war and all the artifacts, the battlefields, and all that kind of stuff. Stuff just interests me, and you gotta make sometimes it's difficult to separate the person and the personal actions from the historical items. When I was there in Germany, I went to Dachau, which was a concentration camp, and that was a very eye-opening experience. But I'm glad the German government just didn't bulldoze that, and they kept it standing, so that at that time, 50 years almost later, I could go in and experience what the horrors that humans are able to do to other humans. And you got to understand why they keep that stuff around. Now, they didn't keep everyone around, but they kept a few to show people, like, listen, if we don't recognize that this type of stuff is possible, we're doomed to repeat it. If you ignore history, you are doomed to repeat it. So I think this has a very significant historical, I don't even know what to say, relevance. A very significant historical relevance. I can understand how some people would be turned off. I technically, would not spend $1.6 million on this thing. And it's kind of creepy. I would never wear it. I think this would be one of those things that you put away in a case, or maybe in a museum. Hopefully a museum will buy it, put it in the museum, or when the person that buys it for a personal collection, when they die, they'll donate it to a museum. So guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think about that. I thought it was very interesting. I had never seen, and they mentioned in the article, and like I said again, link in the description below, go check it out. It's horologically, it's pretty interesting to go all the way back and see, you know, now it's been, what, 77 years since the end of the war. So it's really cool, I think, to go back and see the entire history of this watch and some of the cool pictures and examples of other watches that Huber made, and you know how they look exactly like this Reverso. Also, there's another question. Do you guys think it's technically a JLC Reverso? Like I said, JLC doesn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I got that. I understand exactly why they don't. They don't want to say, they said they never sold them or any Nazis watches, but they were purchased privately and then customized by Huber, I guess. So would you guys technically say it is a JLC, considering it's got the movement and the case is JLC? But then again, it's been customized by Uber or Huber. I don't know which way I'm saying it right. Maybe if you can correct me on that one, leave a comment down below in the comments. But guys, I really want to hear what your opinion is and what you think about this. Does this watch have horological significance, or should they just toss it in the river? I'm more on the history and horological significance side. Even though it is a bad part of history, it's still part of history. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you enjoy this type of content, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to rock those watches.